Chat. The fear may be over. Oh god, I'm falling apart. Oh, it's falling apart so quickly. Oh, my nose. Oh, my head. Oh, my stomach. It all fell apart so quickly. Never. Oh, Lord. Never let anyone tell you becoming an adult is fun, because your body just, it falls apart real fast. Oh god, you can't do the things you used to do. Like me thinking I could just make fried chicken and then immediately my stomach disagreeing with the idea of eating fried chicken. And my allergies, for some reason, joining in on the fun. It's been a horrible hour, but I wanted to at least chat with you guys a little bit today. I still may at least hop on Uma Musume and do some pulls, but at the moment, it's not looking good in terms of longevity for this stream. I'm in pain. Hopefully you guys are doing well. I hope your Friday is joyous, full of whimsy. I hope your week went by quickly. And I hope you have some fun stuff planned for this weekend. And if you work, well, hopefully you had a good few days leading up to your weekend. And maybe when you get out of work, we'll have some. Thank goodness. I did discover that from now on, I think I'll be using Anko instead of breadcrumbs for everything. Because my fried chicken is like super crunchy now because of it. Oh man. I hope you guys had a good day. Been doing some more thinking on some stuff that we want to do on the channel later on down the road. Do I still call this a channel? It is like a Twitch channel, right? That's how you're supposed to refer to it. Texting me. Oh sweet Jesus. Oh, I'm so washed, I'm so cooked, and every other negative phrase that youth have been using these days. I know you guys don't really follow NASCAR because we were talking about it yesterday, and a lot of you guys said that, you didn't really watch, but I am thinking that the Daytona race might be a fun one to do on stream. I'm not sure about this weekend. It could be fun to do this weekend and test it out. Like a little watch along. I don't know what I would watch it on, is the question. Like, I don't know what I would watch you guys, or watch with you guys. So it would be cool to get like the audio and stuff, but probably, I don't know. Let me check like NASCAR.com. Maybe they have like a little, like live thing. You know, like a live ticker. I think there's a race today, isn't there? Yeah, there's the truck race at 8. I'm probably not gonna be streaming that long to watch it. Hopefully I'll be okay to exist. Hopefully this is me getting sick and having to deal with it the next few days, because that would really suck when I finally have the energy to stream much more frequently. You know. The goal from here on out to stream at least 2 times a week and aim for 3 times a week at least. And then if we do these little sport watch alongs, you know, we could also do that. Like, that would be something fun to do. And that would also get me a Sunday stream. But it is hard to gauge because sometimes I'll just go over families' houses and watch them. Have people over to watch certain games. It is very exciting. We're getting close to the best season for sports. And, you know, it's what some people would say is the best season in general. I would agree, probably. I think fall is really good. I think fall is probably the best season. Just because you do have Halloween, which when we come back around to Halloween as an adult, it instantly, like, it becomes like a million times better. Because instead of going trick-or-treating as a kid only once, adults just kind of make Halloween the whole month, and it's pretty cool. I do more stuff for Halloween now than I did when I was a kid. Like, I did like mazes and stuff, and like tractor rides and all that, but now as an adult, I have my own car. I could just kind of do what I want. There isn't like a horn maze around me. I've noticed that. There was one where I was growing up, and that one was so much fun. It was a really big one. Excuse me. But ever since I moved, not so much. At least not one that I found. I'm really hoping that there is one that I'm just not knowing of. Like, excuse me, drank the last can of Coke Zero, and I'm paying the price for it. What was I saying? Oh yeah, I'm hoping that there is a maze near me, and I'm just not finding it when I'm trying to Google it, and then it is pretty close or something. Maybe I'll ask around at work if any of the locals know anything about that. I've only lived where I do presently live a handful of years. You know, haven't really had the chance to explore. I've barely explored it all. There, chat, are you into cryptids? I hope you are, because I love cryptids. Cryptids are so cool, and I really wanna. I don't know what I could do to include cryptids in live stream, but I would really love to do that. I've always said it, like, cryptids they fascinate me. And I have a big book of cryptids. I think it's on my coffee. Either on my coffee table or on my bookshelf. But I really love cryptids. I love reading about them. I love hearing legends. And I especially love when people talk about hunting them. Like, I have no interest in finding a cryptid, but I have a lot of interest in talking to people who do want to find a cryptid. So much fun. I think it would be like a dream come true if I could just be like the videographer documenting a group of Bigfoot hunters. That would be so cool, right? It'd be amazing. And like, maybe like someone, I I don't know how big other cryptid hunting goes. I've never even been to like a cryptid museum. I'm such a fake. I'm a tourist. Have all of the, you have Bigfoot, and then you have like all the off branches of Bigfoot. You have like the White Fang in Alabama. You have Skunk Ape in Florida. There's more. And you have the Yeti, which is basically Bigfoot. Excuse me, I'm dying over here. Shoot, what else is there? I feel like there's more like ripoffs. The two biggest cryptids are just like ripoffs of Bigfoot and ripoffs of Ness. Like Loch Ness. Oh my god. Road is closing up apparently. My whistle. I always like the story of the Thunderbird. Because like birds that like their wings are so big that every flap is the crash of lightning. That's so cool. Or Crash of Thunder, if you want to go with namesake, right? It's just so because I always wonder, how did things become legend? You know? How do things cross cultures that might have not interacted with each other? Why are there so many stories about a big giant monster in the woods, like hairy, big, and like ape-like in all different parts of the country? And then like, why are there so many stories about like stuff like the Loch Ness monster, like a sea, like a freshwater monster in big lakes? I don't necessarily like Loch Ness clones. I think they're kind of lazy, and for the most part, I think they're kind of done just for tourism's sake. There's a, what is that? It's like Lake Champlain up in New York, I believe, and they have Champ, I think his name is, and it's a sea monster or like a lake monster, but it's kind of, I think it just made it up. Like I don't think there's any real legend behind it, but Champ is basically just the lake's mascot, and they're like, oh yeah, he's in there, you know, watch out. But I don't think he ever had any legend. I think he's just kind of made up. He's Lake Champlain propaganda. I mean, Nessie herself was just a dude fucking around with some driftwood. Still, like there's got to be some story to something. I like the story of the Dark Watchers, because the Dark Watchers are like documented in history, and they could be explained away as like shadows or people just watching over cliffs and such. But like the Dark Watchers are from California, I believe, California, and they would watch over the settlers as they came in, and they wouldn't do anything. They would just watch over them far, far away. And then if you tried to go towards them, they weren't hostile. People, like, settlers documenting it, and they're... What were they talking about? Because this was just their experience, and yeah, they're all dark beings that would watch us from the hillside, much taller than any human could be. And they wouldn't do anything, they wouldn't attack, they wouldn't be vicious, they would just watch us past, and that would be that. Or like oh, what are those things called? They're like they're in the Himalayas, and like the guides that when you're climbing up the mountain, they'll be like, oh man, I can't remember their name. I think Sherpa is like the person who helps you, right? What is? Oh my god, this zombie of the Himalayas. Rolang. They're Rolangs. That's what they're called. Rolangs are what I'm thinking. And they're a zombie-like creature from Tibetan folklore. Ro is the word for corpse, and Lang's Lenmarang. Lenro Marlang. Langs is the perfect tense of to rise up, so Rolangs literally means corpse. The Rolang is usually created by a G'dan spirit or a sorcerer. A Rolang cannot speak or bend over. It signals its victims by wagging its tongue back and forth. They cannot bend any joints, which makes them stiff-armed lurch. In Tibet, there are low doorways to keep out. Like, oh my god, it's just so cool, right? I love folklore. Like, it's just legend that these things exist, and yeah, you know, just don't think about it. No, maybe I'll go find that book. I think it is on my... It's either on my bookshelf or on my coffee table, and I'll just... That I found multiple books. Found them. Try to get the broken fucking chair back up to the desk. So I have... Turn on the light so I can read better. My eyes are shit as it is. Alright, so we have two books here. One is called Alien Encounters and Their True Life Stories of UFOs and Extraterrestrial Phenomena by Rupert Matthews. And the other one is the book I was just saying as I slapped the microphone arm with the book. And it's Frightful Folklore of North America, written and illustrated by Mike Bass. And I got this book a few months ago as a gift. And I just love reading through it because it's very short because there's a lot of entries and it's separated by like region and by cultures. So, you know, you have the Valley of the Headless Men, which are some of the more popular ones like that. You have Ogopogo, which is another like Nessie clone, Sasquatch, obviously, the Wendigo. Then you have stuff like hurricane lore, pirate lore, western lore. What else we got in here? And then it goes to Mexico, and then and like Southern America, or Southern United States, I should say. You have like Hispanic superstitions, the Green Lady, Caribbean lore, and then if you go. Yeah, so it goes from like northern North America to southern North America. And like Central America too. Again, hurts me. Oh, which one is like a... I love the story of the Valley of Headless. That one's a really good one. Or in North America... The Valley of Headless Men. I'll just read it verbatim. Maybe I should change the stream title name. Here we go. Here we go. We'll do like supernatural story time. How about that? I do have some supernatural stories myself. Supernatural story. Keeping ya up at night. That's... supernatural story. I do have some little spooky stories myself, but I'll read some of these. The supernatural story time. So the first one, this is from the book. This is a very popular story, the Canadian Tale of the Valley of Headless Men. For more than 10,000 years, the Dene people have lived in the shadows of jagged mountains and dense forests of the Nahanni Valley, which is also known as the Valley of the Headless Men. It was the gold rush of the late 1800s that brought the first settlers to the wild, remote, and inhospitable land. While the masses flocked to the Yukon, in the spring of 1906, two brothers, Willie and Frank McLeod, decided to set out to find gold in the Nahanni Valley. Years later, their headless remains were discovered. 2 years after the McLeod brothers had tried to find gold, Martin Jorgensen, who had just sent word home that he had struck it rich, was also found dead. His cabin had been burned to the ground, and his charred remains were found upriver. Just like the McLeods, Jorgensen was missing his head. Over the next 50 years, the dead bodies continued to pile up in the Nahanni Valley. In 1927, the skeleton of a known outlaw and occasional prospector, Yukon Fisher, was found in the same location as the McLeod brothers' bodies. Fisher still had his head, and his death was unexplained. In 1931, the headless corpse of Phil Powers was found in a pile of ash. In 1945, Ernest Savard was discovered headless alongside the charred remains of his tent. That same year, the frozen bodies of an experienced hunter and trapper named John O'Brien was found next to his extinguished campfire, with a box of matches in one hand and a match that had been fired in the other. It was noted that it looked as though an Arctic wind had blown in, extinguished the fire, and froze his corpse in an instant, but no wind of such power has ever been recorded in reality. Strange as the stories of these bodies are, the tales of those who have gone missing are just as bizarre. One such story is that of Anne Lafferty, who vanished from a hunting party in 1926. She was last seen in the middle of the night by another hunter who had been woken by the sound of vigorous splashing in the river. He claimed that when he looked out, he saw Lafferty clambering up the scree on the other side of the river on all fours, completely naked. Called that she returned his stare with a wild look on her face. Horrified, he sheepishly retreated into his tent for a restless night, and Lafferty was never seen again. In 1929, Agnes Hall, a gold prospector, vanished without a trace. In 1936, prospectors William Epler and Joseph Mulholland also went missing. Their cabin had been burned to the ground, but their bodies were never found. After May Lafferty wandered off from her hunting party, she was tracked into the woods. Her trail often vanished, sometimes at the edge of cliffs or along the river where rapids would have thwarted a crossing, only to be picked up again further upstream. Traffickers found Lafferty's clothing along the trail, one discarded item after another. It seemed that she had been wandering the wilds completely naked. The trail eventually went cold, and no one knows what happened to her. Today, much of the region remains unexplored on foot, although satellite mappings offer us a good look at the area. Some of the valley's features have been named according to the fates of those who have lost their lives. Headless Creek, Deadman Valley, the Funeral Range Mountains, which cast long shadows across the surrounding land. An interesting perspective on these stories is offered by the macabre details of the indigenous Dene people over the centuries. From these, we learn that they were repeatedly terrorized by a vicious cannibalistic tribe called the Naha, who lived further north. When the Dene finally tired of the Naha's attacks, they traveled upriver to put an end to the mischief. When they arrived at Naha's camp, however, no one was there, as it looked as though the Naha people had simply walked into the wilderness. As the Dene traveled home, the sun slowly sank over the western peaks and darkness crept towards them. The breeze that had cooled them by day suddenly turned into ice-cold gale. Gusts tore at their shelters and the tempest raged. The Dene people huddled together back to back, scanning the wilderness behind their fires. What they feared could not be seen. Continuous wailing, combined with a nagging instinct to flee. They heard unearthly shrieks and screams that seemed to rise and fall with the howling wind. That instant, it felt as though Mother Nature had turned her gaze towards them, and was displeased that they were there. It's just, oh my god, that's so cool, because what is it? It does sound like it's just, obviously something's taking the heads off these. But, like, the mystery being like centuries old. It's so beautifully terrifying, isn't it? And then, of course, every few pages they'll have stuff like this, which is like frontier lore. It's like a flyer, like a warning flyer. Just to ward off any malicious spirits that may mean them harm, drive an old coarse iron nail into the head of a newborn's crib. Never enter a cemetery without a hat, lest a spirit hop on your back and ride upon you out through the cold iron gate. Mind you, hold your breath, as the spirits are keen to enter your body upon your breath. Beware the squeaky hinge of a door. Troublesome spirits and the downtrodden souls who endlessly wander may find the creaks and groans as an invitation to make a home of their own in your house. Keep an oil can at the ready. Good luck and fortune comes when one is welcomed by a stray black cat. Doom and calamity if one approaches and turns away before making your acquaintance. I'm guessing a lot of people died when approached by a black cat and just assumed that the end was near, because cats are just assholes like that. If my fate rested on a cat being friendly, I would switch over so fast. Let's switch to the. I've read a bunch of those. I think I'm gonna switch to the alien encounters and see if there's any interesting ones. Because these are, I believe they're like well-documented stuff, and it's a little more than just an overview. But there are 12 case books. There's UFOs arrive out of this world, UFOs land, aliens emerge, alien encounters, alien contact, alien abduction. This is like a good 200-page book too, and the print is pretty, pretty wide. There's a lot to read. Let's see if we can find one of like a specific encounter that someone had with aliens. Okay, encounter casebook 1. Here we go. This is what we're looking for. Date: June 21st, 1947, Mount Rainier, Washington. Witness of Kenneth Arnold. Kenneth Arnold was an experienced pilot who had been in Chehalis, Washington? ? On business on the morning of 24th of June. He set off to fly home to Oregon in his spot. Oh my God. The ability to read has escaped me once again. He set off to fly home to Oregon in his single-engined Carrier light aircraft. With both time and fuel to spare, he decided to spend an hour or so over the Mount Rainier area searching for a U.S. military transport aircraft that had been reported missing and was presumed to have crashed. It was while turning onto a new leg of this search pattern that at an altitude of 9,200 feet that Arnold saw a bright flash of light sweep over his aircraft. Such a thing usually happened when sun reflected off surfaces of another aircraft close by. Fearing a collision with an aircraft he had not seen, Arnold hurriedly leveled his aircraft and scanned the skies desperately, seeking another aircraft. He quickly saw a DC-4 airliner some miles distant and flying away from him. Discounting this as a source of the flash, he saw a second flash to the north. Staring in the location of the flash, Arnold saw a line of 9 aircraft flying towards him at an angle. As the aircraft came closer, he saw that they were flying in echelon? I'm not familiar with formations in the military. A usual military formation. Oh, there you go. But arranged with the lead aircraft above the others, contrary to the standard military practice. Arnold at this point assumed that the fast approaching aircraft were military jets of some kind and relaxed. But as the 9 aircraft got closer, Arnold was able to see them in detail, and once he realized that he was seeing something very strange, each aircraft shaped like a wide crescent in neither fuselage nor tail. Moreover, the aircraft were flying with such a strange, undulating motion, quite unlike the straight line flight of all known aircraft. They also fluttered and dipped from side to side at times, sending off bright flashes as the sun reflected from their highly polished silver blue surfaces. There were no markings that Arnold could see, though he was now concentrating hard on the mysterious aircraft. The formation of the strange aircraft was moving hard. Slap my microphone. Arnold timed them passing over landmarks on the ground and later estimated the speed at around 1,300 miles per hour. This was much faster than any aircraft known at the time. Even military jets flew at only around 700 miles an hour. The aircraft were soon out of sight. Arnold headed for Yakima Airfield and went to see Al Baxter, the general manager of Central Aircraft. The two men discussed the strange aircraft, and Arnold drew pictures of what he had seen. Other pilots and aircrew joined the conversation, but none could explain what Arnold had seen, other than to guess that the strange aircraft were some kind of secret military project. Though confused, Arnold then resumed his interrupted flight home to Oregon. By the time he arrived, Arnold had begun to worry that he had seen some sort of highly advanced Soviet war machine. He decided to inform the FBI, but their office was closed, so he dropped in at the offices of the East Oregonian newspaper. He told the reporters that they are all about his experience. One of them, Bill Beckett, queried the way the strange aircraft moved. Arnold elaborated on the undulating motion, saying they flew like a saucer would if you skipped it across water. Beckett filed his report with the National News Agency, writing about flying saucers. It was repeated across America, and soon the public was agog at news of these flying saucers. Meanwhile, Arnold had returned to the FBI to tell them about the strange craft. The local FBI passed the details onto the head office in Washington, concluding his report with the words, "It is of the personal opinion of the interviewer that Arnold actually saw what he states he saw in the attached report." Already concerned about Russians' intents and military technology, the U.S. military pounced on Arnold's report. Bro was born. Is that like the first usage of flying saucer then? Pretty amazing. That's what I don't get. So sometimes, people will say they just saw UFO stuff, right? Like, people will just be like, yeah, that's totally a UFO. But when you get stuff like that with, like, reputable sources and witnesses, especially in the 40s where, people weren't really seeing or claiming to see aircrafts. They weren't claiming aliens. Closing out. I don't think I've ever had my own alien. I mean, there was one time. I mean, it was kind of recent, I guess. Yeah, I guess I could talk about the time I had an alien encounter. I mean, I guess it could be an alien encounter. It didn't. I tried to find every other explanation as to what it could have been. And it just doesn't make sense to me that it was an alien, like a UFO or something, but I just don't get what else it could be. It happened very recently, because it was when, like, you could see the northern lights from, like, the deep south. And me and my family went out to this lake that's near us. Went out with our cameras and such, and we were trying to see if we could, see the northern lights through the lenses. And I downloaded this app that was like, you could point it in the direction of the night sky and it would tell you what, like, stars or satellites or planets you were looking at, right? And I was looking at this one, which I believe, if I'm not wrong, it was International Space Station I was looking at, the way it moved. And while I was looking in that general direction, there was a star that was pretty bright, and it was, it was a star. They don't generally tend to move, And all of a sudden, while me and Sister Meringue are looking at it, it just, in a straight line, just moves and then disappears. And I look at my sister, and she looks at me, and I was like, Did you just see that? She goes, yeah. Yeah, I just saw that. I'm like, what was that? Was that like a drone? I don't know. That's pretty far up if that's a drone. And then where'd it go if it was a drone, right? It's like, well, it couldn't have been like a helicopter. That moved way too fast, and like we didn't hear it. It couldn't have been a jet because it was just sitting in one spot and then suddenly just moved, flew away like it was on a line basically. And it just like moved across the night sky and disappeared. And I really don't know what it could have been. I don't know if there is an explanation for it, but it was pretty strange, and I don't know what else it could have possibly been. It's just like, what the hell, you know? What a strange, what a strange thing. Not sure. It just seemed so weird to me. I never figured it out, what it could have possibly been. I wouldn't even know what to guess that it was. I thought for sure it was a joke. Still doesn't. I mean, I have some other stories. I have like ghost stories, but that might be like a whole stream on its own, sharing ghosts. Right? Because I just have a lot. I have some from my mom's. Like my mom, like when she was growing up, she saw a lot of ghosts. My sister has experience with them. I have personal experience with ghosts. I would love to do, like, I want to get a bunch of people together who have had, like, supernatural. I feel like that's a bad connotation nowadays, right? Or at least it had one for a long time, like at least a couple decades. Where say things about ghosts, it's like, oh yeah, I got a ghost story, here's this, and this. And I think it takes away from people who have had weird stories about ghosts. No, ghosts are... I fully believe in them just because I feel like I've seen them with my own eyes and experienced them in ways. So I feel like I'd be just denying what I have seen if I said that ghosts were not real. 100% are, at least to me. They're real to me. It's just coming back to bite me. I think I'm slowly dying. Do another story. See if we have a quick one. I don't know, my stomach is very quickly turning to return to monkey. It's just not doing well. See if I can find some good one day. I don't want to do like Sasquatch or something. I want to do something cool. Something that people don't really know. I broke PNG Tuber for a second. You guys probably wouldn't see it, but it jumped around on my screen and it kind of just scared me. Let's see what we got. I could just, you know, I could spend like a whole day just reading these books. Ooh, the Gray Man. The Gray One's kind of, or the Gray Man is like kind of romantic. It's very like tragic tale. I think the Gray Man would. That one's kind of. Oh yeah, that's a short enough one, I'd say. So the Gray Man. The Gray Man comes from a tale in South Carolina. The weather seems fair as large cumulus clouds hang heavy in the distant sky, meandering sluggishly across the hazy horizon like a herd of white elephants crossing the savannah. A strong breeze rushes over the cresting surf, carrying with it the salty taste of sea spray, loosing dampened hair and pulling at loose clothing. 10-foot swells march one after another to shore, rhythmic whoosh and roar of strong waves pushing pebbles and debris inland. Over the lifeguard's hut, a yellow flag flutters in the wind, warning of hazardous surf. The day must have been just like this one when, on September 23, 1822, he mounted his horse and rode out from Georgetown towards Pawleys Island. He was on his way to see his fiancée for a visit, and while there, he was hoping to convince her and her family to move further inland for safety, in the face of the imminent incoming storm. Although he'd been riding hard, he was behind time. With the sun falling quickly in the sky behind him, he decided to take a shortcut through the salt marshes just between the mainland and Pawleys Island. The gray hues of twilight were upon him as he broke from the road and entered the tall grasses of the marsh. Throughout the day, the ocean swells had grown and made their way further inland, and by the time he began to make his way through this thick spartinum and mud, soil had become fully saturated, turning the marsh's earth into loose, unsupportive muck. It wasn't long before his horse was mired down in the soft ground. Struggling to free itself only made things worse, and the mud continued to give way. Both steed and rider were pulled down onto the salty soil and drowned. Eagerly awaiting his arrival, the young man's fiancée spent the night unable to sleep. She rose early the next morning and raced downstairs, fully expecting to find him waiting for her in the parlor, but to her disappointment, he was not there. She checked to see if he'd sent word ahead of his departure, however, much to her concern, she was told none had come. She went to the stables to inquire about his arrival, but he was met with no news of his whereabouts. Her anxiety began to rise. She went to shore along a path they often walked together, trying to calm herself with the familiar sound of the rising surf. It was mid-morning, and by now the sky was overcast. The heavy clouds of the evening had been driven off by thinner cirrus clouds which raced across the sky. The breeze, no longer gentle, had grown to gusts as the full wind rustled through the creaking boughs, brushing wisps of loose hair across her furrowed brow. The young woman became more and more concerned about her fiancé. He had never been this late, and he'd never been so irresponsible as to travel. When a storm was incoming, her mind raced from one horrible misfortune to another as the surf became wilder. She wandered further down shore, watching the sea foam as it swirled over the surface of the water, when there in the distance she saw him, standing in the gray haze and the sea spray of the imminent storm. It had to be him, a man with the same stature and form as her own true love. She ran to him, but as she made her way closer, although she recognized his face, she was struck with dismay by its countenance. His eyes, somber and apprehensive, were full of sadness and foretold of the tempest to come. Although he spoke not a single word as he took both her hands in his, when his eyes fixed on hers, she saw the journey where he had met his fate, witnessed the moment he met his end. He felt the extent of his adoration for her, and the infinite sadness of his final moments. The concern he had for her and her family's safety. His eyes, all filled with a sense of sorrowful presentiment, told her this and more, until a gust of wind, he vanished, leaving her in solitude ahead of the approaching gale. Heartbroken and full of grief, he ran home and told her family about what had just occurred. He conveyed to them the sense of foreboding, the intensity of the message her lost love had tried to give them. Heeding the warning, the family gathered their pets and the few possessions they could carry and headed inland for safety ahead of the storm. And what a storm it was! On September 27, 1822, hundreds died when a storm surge rapidly flooded low-lying areas. Homes were washed away and entire families were lost to the sea. To this day, the gray man walks the shores of Pawleys Island, ahead of destructive storms. Name a hurricane, and there will be those who have claimed to have seen him before a hit. He was there before Hazel in 1954, then again in 1989 before Hugo's devastating landfall, and he was there once again before Florence in 2018. Rolling the lonely shore in his long gray coat, he is a sinister remnant of a life forfeited and a love lost to all those years. See, man, I love when ghost stories are like, they have romance to it. Just, oh, it's so beautiful. And on the accompanying page, there's a page for hurricane lore. An ever-powerful heirloom. Carry a red onion in your pocket to ensure you'll survive any horrific torrent. Beware of the sudden flight of dogs and cats. Yeah, I guess you will. Unfettered or unattended dogs and cats, as well as other small pets, will attempt to flee to higher ground, seeking shelter further inland. If kept indoors, they'll fidget and fuss, and no amount of consoling them will calm their restlessness. Hurricane, the Mayan god of wind, storm, lightning, and fire. flooded the whole world and rode upon the windy mist to ensure the total destruction of all the life on the planet. Only then did he command the earth to rise from the depths of the sea once more to create new life. Beware of the color red during the gale. Aggressive, vibrant, hot, and passionate. Color red is known to attract the furious powers and destruction. Alright, I'll do one more. I think I'll do one more. This is The Ghost of Deer Island, and I haven't read this one yet. This is The Ghost of Deer Island from Mississippi. Deer Island is the closest barrier inland on the Mississippi coast, less than a quarter of a mile from Biloxi. As a coastal reserve, it's home to many an endangered species, as well as being a stopping point for many migratory birds on their way south. The wild salt marshes are crowded with tall grasses, and alligators bask in the hot afternoon sun, a reminder of a more ancient time. Oh, hello, welcome D&D. Right now, I am reading the book Frightful Folklore of North America by Mike Bass. And, you know, just kind of talking about cryptids and ghost stories. I was reading some passages from some books I own. I just finished the one of The Gray Man, which is a ghost that in Pawleys Island, South Carolina, that if you see it, it is warning of an incoming hurricane or severe storm. We read The Valley of the Headless Men, which is an area in Canada where throughout the last century, there have been a number of travelers who went into this valley and they have been found dead without their heads. So, just your normal everyday Friday night stuff, you know. Nothing weird, nothing strange. Where was I? As the island is so close to the mainland, it's also a common spot for sport fishermen trolling Biloxi Bay and beyond. But long before civilization had found its way to the southern shores of the United States, this marshy island served a more menacing purpose as a hidden treasury for pirates' plunder. The daylight had faded faster than the two men had expected, and they found themselves packing up from a full day of fishing as the sun began to set. Although only a mile or so back to shore, the thought of crossing the bay in darkness, then unpacking and stowing their equipment on the other side was not as enticing as spending the night on the sandy beaches of Deer Island, drinking a beer or two as they ate the day's catch and told tall tales of the ones that got away. They built a fire from dry driftwood, set about making camp and cleaning up a mix of redfish and flounder. The indigo horizon gave way to star-filled blackness, and the lights of Biloxi glimmered in the distance, reflected in the inky dark waters of the bay. The night was warm. The soft breeze made its way over the Gulf, deterring the descent of mosquitoes and their bothersome kind. Two men bedded down to the pop and snap of a waning fire. The island was quiet as the tide gently lapped the beach sand, lulling them into slumber. Yet sleep did not come easily for the two fishermen. Restless and fitful, they woke often to the sounds of wildlife. Twigs snapped and small feet scurried through the nearby brush, and larger animals also made themselves known while stalking smaller prey off in the marsh. Eventually, around 2 a.m, the men decided to stoke up the fire, crack open a few more beers, and wait out the night before heading home in daybreak. Time tends to pass slowly through the dark, unfamiliar hours of early morning hours when most humans safely spend in slumber. Company of a good friend lightens the mood in even the most stressful situations. And at first, simply being awake and laughing at odd jokes together seemed to put the uneasiness of the night to rest. Small critters were easy to ignore as they scurried about, dashing in and out of the campfire light, stealing scraps of dropped food. Even some of the louder, bigger animals didn't bother the fishermen. Only when they heard what sounded like human feet running did they become concerned. One grabbing a machete and the other a fillet knife, they ventured side by side into the darkness of the undergrowth. In 5 feet, the ground began to give way beneath their steps. Damp tangles of roots and decaying grass grabbed at them, seizing their feet as they continued forward. 10 feet in, they were up to their knees, slogging through brakish marshland until they found themselves both laughing and shaking their heads, having found nothing. They soon agreed that their fears were just an uneasy preoccupation with the unknown sounds of the island. As they turned back to head to camp, there, standing between them and their escape route, was the corpse of a headless man brandishing a rusty cutlass. A tattered and strained white blouse hung loosely over the fleshless ribcage. Skin clung in torn strips from his arms, and bony knees jutted out from below his leather breeches. His skinless legs and feet were muddy and intertwined with the paspatum root and glasswort. Those last few words didn't seem real. Instinctively, the men split up, one running off to the left and the other to the right, which seemed to freeze the Exevelous phantom in a moment of indecision. A moment that was all they needed. As they dashed past the dithering wraith and raced towards their skiff. Leaving everything behind, they pushed off into the darkness into the bay and headed for the lights of the mainland with the Spectre in pursuit, waving his blade as he waded waist deep into the surf. Looking back from a safe distance, they still saw the headless skeleton standing guard, silhouette against their still burning fire, a headless sentry to the vast Bit into the foamy swells before you sail. Advantageous currents and the blessing of the tides will follow. Toss a coin into the sea, a small toll for a bit of peace of mind, a safe voyage in Neptune's waters. Yet take heed, cast no stone upon the briny sea as you set sail. Lest the stone does sink into the murky depths of an unforgiving sea, so too shall your ship before you make land. Never change the name of a ship. You tempt the wrath of Neptune's fury. Unregistered in his ledger of the deep, your ship will be beleaguered is an interesting word, beleaguered by misfortune. Heaving on swells, rolling atop the driving waves, yawing with the incessant billows until broken upon the tide and plunged into the depths of the briny deep. Neither kill nor harm the feathered wing of a swallow, gull, or albatross. Cure the souls of dead sailors, your luck will turn sour even if your intent is not malicious. The ship is a temperamental kind of vessel. Never name a ship in honor of a betrothed woman. Inclined to become jealous of such actions, it may spitefully act to cause harm. I would like to see... I need to see if I could find a book on pirate ghost story. I never even thought about the possibility of those being as enthralling. Most of my interest in cryptids and ghost stories, they all come from like American folklore. Like I mentioned earlier, like the Thunderbird or the Dark Watchers, whatever those things are, the night crawlers, the Fresno night crawlers, stuff like that, like stuff that is just so creepy, but like you can see why there is like lore. But some pirate stuff. Maybe I can get like a little pirate hat for and slap them on, or slap it on here, and I'll tell some pirate ghost stories if I could find a good book about that, you know. I think I have some more ghost books. Maybe I can grab one, see if I could find like a quick ghost story to tell. Let me see. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Chat. Got 3 more books, rated R for pirate ghost stories. Alright, I got 3 books. So I have, sorry for pushing. I have Haunted Charleston, which Charleston does relate back to the pirate story. A ton of piracy. Bunch of pirate history. Charleston, of course. I have the Mythical Creatures Bible. And I have Weird Pennsylvania. Growing up, my uncle, he had the entire collection of like the Weird series of like the Weird US, and he had like every state and then just the Weird United States book. And and I have Weird Pennsylvania. So let's see if I could find a good story out of Weird Pennsylvania. I know most of I think I know most of them. Oh, good morning. Hello, welcome in. We're reading. It's a good thing it's morning for you because we're reading some spooky stories. So, you know, might make you a little uneasy if you were going to bed. Which one sounds interesting? We have 4 p.m. morning. Oh my god. We have local legends and lore. This is of Pennsylvania, by the way. Ancient mysteries, fabled people and places, unexplained phenomena, bizarre beasts, local heroes and villains, personalized properties, roadside oddities, roads less traveled, Quaker State ghosts, cemetery safari, and abandoned. When was this published? This was published in 2005, really? Huh. I could have swore these were like from the 90s. I think a good one to start with would either be unexplained phenomena or maybe roadside oddities. Do you guys have a preference on which we look through first? I should hook up like a camera if I could get my hands on like a good background. That way, because this one has pictures. This book has pictures in it. I could like read it to you guys like you're in kindergarten class. Let's go with unexplained phenomena. That one seems. Do you guys have any ghost stories? Do you guys have you, or any UFO stories? We were talking about those earlier. I don't have many I only have one UFO encounter that I told a little earlier. But I do have plenty of ghost stories that are encounters that I've had myself, and microphone arm is probably sounding really great right now as I'm trying to move it out of the way of this book. Have any? Well, I would say darn, but that is probably a good thing that you don't have any encounters with the ghosts, the supernatural. I don't have any like, not that I recall. I don't have. I mean, I guess they're creepy because they're ghost stories. But there was one. I don't think I've told this story on stream before. But there was one. So when I was growing up, I lived on like in a neighborhood that was like the school bus would drop us off at the bottom of the hill that we lived in. All of the students would walk up to their houses. It was a little bit of a walk for some of them, so like the parents would drive them up if they were, you know, available and stuff. There would be times when if I was sick or something, I would obviously be at home to watch the kids get dropped off from school. And I would be like, oh, you know, it's 2 p.m. and go over to the window and, you know, watch the high schoolers come up. Because when this happened, I was like in elementary school. So high schoolers got home first, then it was like middle schoolers, and then elementary school. That was the order we got home in. So I usually, unless I was sick, I would not be on the high school bus. I was in high school. And there was, it was a small development, and my school wasn't very big, so we knew everyone on that bus. You know, at the very least, we knew everyone in our development. But there was this one kid that we'd only see every once in a while, and he would get off the bus, and he would start walking up the hill, and then he would get to like the tree line that was in front of our house, and then he would just disappear. Like he would never emerge from the other side of the tree line. And we were like the second house in line, so we knew our neighbors and we knew it wasn't like he wasn't on either side, but he would get to like the tree line and disappear. And I just thought, oh, I'm not watching long enough and I'll miss him coming out the other side. But you know, one time I was like, I want to see, when I see him next, I'm gonna see if he comes out the other side. And sure enough, one day I'm homesick and I see him walking up the hill, and he's always like lagging behind the rest of the kids. And he's like walking up and he reaches the tree line, and again he disappears. And I'm waiting there and I'm just staring at the other end, and all the other kids have like gone past the tree line, and I'm just like waiting. And I'm waiting and waiting, and he never comes out. Like, he never emerges from it.
And then eventually, I just stopped seeing him, and I just assumed, I don't know, like maybe he graduated or something. But like, I just never knew. It's like, what the hell? Why does he leave there? There was no house across from us, so he couldn't have gone. Like, he didn't live there. And like I said, we knew all our neighbors. And eventually, like when I got like to be a little older, we had like school uniforms, and he was still wearing like the same flannel and jeans that he was wearing. So like, okay, this guy had to have been in trouble, you know, because if he wasn't wearing the uniform, then obviously he's in trouble. But eventually, like I said, I stopped seeing him and whatever. But then, like when I was in college, I was talking to my sister, and I brought him up, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I used to see him if I was home from school." And I was like, "Wait, seriously? You used to see a guy get off the school bus, or like you'd see him walking up?" Because I never saw him get off the school bus. That was the thing. I never saw him actually get off the school bus. And I was like, "You saw the kid, like he's like probably like 10th grade or something, like, you know, a little older teenager." And it's like he would just get off the bus, or not get off the bus, but he would start walking up the hill. And as soon as he got to the tree line, he would disappear. And I never told anyone about this. And when my sister said that, it was like the hair on my arm stood up. It's like, what? It's like, so I wasn't the only one seeing that. But then that just makes it all the more confusing, because where the hell did this guy go? And who was he? And where did he live? Because like I said, we knew everyone in our development, or in our neighborhood. And we never knew. Like, we just never knew who it was, or if he was even real. Because I thought for the longest time it was either someone I didn't know, which would be weird because we knew everyone, or I was just hallucinating and I was just seeing things. But my sister described the same exact thing, and there's no way for us to find out what it was. And we have plenty of other ghost stories. Like, my family just seems like we have some supernatural shit going on. I don't know. Thankfully, I haven't. I don't know. I should probably knock on wood before I say this. Knock on old wood by knocking on paper. But I haven't had any supernatural encounters in a while. I actually went to Gettysburg a few years back in hopes of finding ghosts, but I didn't find them. I guess when you're looking for them, they're not too excited to come out and play. What if the person you speak of is one of us in chat? Hey, dude in the flannel and the jeans, if you're in chat, make sure to follow. We're one follower away from reaching affiliate. So if you could smash that follow button and follow us on social media, that would be pretty cool to be followed by a member of the Supernatural. Oh, shit. All right, so let's read a story here from the Unexplained Phenomena of Pennsylvania. Let's see. The Burning of Dr. John. That sounds like a good story. These are all short stories, by the way. There's like 6 stories per page in the thing. The Burning of Dr. John. On December 5th, 1966, in Coudersport, Pennsylvania, Don Gosnell let himself into the home of a retired Dr. John Irving Bentley to read his meter. Because the 92-year-old physician had limited mobility, Gosnell, a part-time firefighter, had permission to enter the home to take the readings. He made his way down to the basement, and he noticed there was a strange, sweet smell. He thought nothing of it until he found a cloud of light blue smoke and a pile of ashes on the dirt floor. Looking up, he saw a hole in the ceiling, revealing the ground floor bathroom. Gosnell ran upstairs to investigate and found Dr. Bentley's bedroom filled with smoke. In the bathroom, beside a hole measuring 2.5 feet by 4 feet burned into the floor, lay the walker that the good doctor needed in order to move about. Beside it all laid all that remained of Dr. Bentley, the lower half of his right leg, with the foot intact, still wearing an undamaged slipper. What could have caused this gruesome scene? Gosnell thought at first that the frail old man might have had a pipe smoking accident, since his robe was dotted with tiny burn marks from hot tobacco ash. But the doctor's pipe was still on its stand in the bedroom. Perhaps there was another explanation. There were remnants of a broken water pitcher lying on the scene of the conflagration. Perhaps a small clothing fire had started in the doctor's room, and he had gone to the bathroom to douse it, but had not made it in time. Pockets were filled with wooden matches that could have sparked the fatal blaze. As the fire took hold, he might have resorted to a stop, drop, and roll in a last-ditch attempt to quell the flames. At that point, his burning clothing could have ignited the linoleum on the bathroom floor, spreading to the hardwood flooring and wooden beams on the bathroom ceiling. Such a fire would draw fresh air from the basement to feed the flames, which would keep the fire burning. Such arguments didn't win over the true believers. If the linoleum and floorboards were as combustible as all this explanation argues, why did the fire not consume it all? The hole in the bathroom was not large, and there was plenty of combustible material elsewhere in the small bathroom. Why did that remain unscathed by the fire? Whatever the actual cause of Dr. Bentley's fatal fire, it remains one of the most celebrated cases in the annals of SHC. So does the earlier tale of Delaware County resident Helen Conway. Who is Helen Conway? Who is Helen Conway? I'd have to look up Helen Conway in a book. The only funny ghost story encounter was me and a few friends at camp decided to put 2 trash cans on top of each other, painted with the Yeti and Sasquatch faces. One of us would get in them and try to make the trash can creation hop around, with the rest of us would just chant rigor mortis. What the hell are you guys doing at camp? Oh, here you go. Flames of Helen. Case of Helen Conway's death by fire in November 1964 is so intriguing that it became the focus of a television documentary filmed by the British Broadcasting Corporation, or the BBC. But at first glance, the demise of this resident of Upper Darby Township looks more like a case of death by misadventure than spontaneous combustion. Mrs. Conway was the firefighter's worst enemy. He was a heavy smoker whose bedroom was dotted with evidence of small cigarette burns. Known to be somewhat careless, and shortly before her death, her granddaughter had also brought her a new book of matches. So, case closed, right? Not necessarily. When the doctors made their way through that thick smoke on that November morning, they found very little of Mrs. Conway. All that remained was a greasy pile of melted flesh and her 2 legs intact below the knee, as if she had been sitting down when consumed by the flames. But Fire Chief Paul Haggerty, who was present on the scene, had gone on record saying he believed this was a case of spontaneous combustion. And his opinion is shared by one of the first volunteer firemen on the scene, Robert Meslin, who later became fire marshal. The key factor in their conclusion is that the speed of which the fire took hold. Larry Arnold's book Ablaze described Meslin's line of reasoning. Meslin estimated that Mrs. Conway's granddaughter had made the emergency call to the fire department within a few minutes of talking to her grandmother. Call came in about 8:40 p.m. and firemen were on the scene within 10 minutes. Conservatively, that would mean that the fire lasted no more than 20 minutes. Some estimates go as long as 6 minutes. The idea that a fire started by a match could quickly consume a body so completely and so quickly does not sit well with firefighting professionals. The most likely type of fire that's a seated woman like Miss Conway would experience from natural causes would be a wick effect fire, which the flames melt the body fat, which fuels the fire. According to the experiments made by the makers of the BBC television documentary, such a fire would take at least 7 hours to consume a human body. So-called reasoned analysis by the Skeptical Inquirer, the anti-Fortean magazine that appeals to science and reason, poo-poos the result of the BBC's approach. It's interesting writing. If the fire had started at the base of Miss Conway's seated body, they say, it would have been more intense and they would have consumed the body faster. Perhaps so, but are they seriously suggesting that Miss Conway accidentally sat on a lit match to precipitate that fatal fire? It seems less likely than the existence of a subatomic particle that spontaneously bursts into flames. Whose side does weird Pennsylvania take in these mysterious cases? We're inclined to sit on the fence and nowhere near any limit. Stupid thing. We were kids doing stupid things. Late at night, do you guys play Manhunt when you were younger? I never really liked Manhunt because I was always terrified of So, when we would play Manhunt, like I mentioned earlier, we were all, every neighbor knew each other where I lived. So, when the kids would play Manhunt on, 4th of July or something, and all the kids come together and all the families are out in the street setting off, fireworks and shit, we'd play Manhunt, and we would just be, running through backyards of the whole neighborhood. But I just never liked it because I always felt like I was gonna get shot. For trespassing or something. But it was something that's like bizarre because I feel like you definitely could not get away with that nowadays, where you're just running through people's backyards and like, oh, those darn kids are at it again, playing some darn manhunt. I never played soccer in the dark. I almost got blown up by a firework though in the dark. This was a long time ago. I can't remember exactly how old I was, but my buddy, they were set. We had like a bunch of fireworks because it was like 4th of July. We'd probably never give anyone irresponsible fireworks. But you know, you definitely shouldn't give anyone irresponsible fireworks. But I did not actually because I was afraid of them. But we were setting off like these. I don't even. They were like big not big explosions, but they were just fireworks that went off on the ground basically. And we were setting them off. And I was just like kind of sitting back because I was like, wow, this is really cool to watch. I don't want to be close to it because it fills me with anxiety. I don't want to be. And when I thought they were done setting them off, we were all like standing in a circle and talking to each other and whatever. And the one kid who had gone to the bathroom in the house came back out, and I guess he found more of the fireworks. And he took like this ball looking thing. It literally looked like a cartoon bomb where it was like a circle with like a fuse coming out of it. And he lit it and just chucked it right in the middle of our little circle while we were talking. And it looked like, it was literally like a cartoon where we all looked down at this little black ball with a skull on it roll into the center of all of us. And luckily, we all reacted quickly enough and we all ran away from it before it went off. But like, if we had been slow on the reaction, or like one of us tripped, we very well could have lost a limb or worse, you know? But that's just the kind of stuff you do when you're young and stupid. I remember I said I made sure to take the proper precautions because if my parents had found out about it, they would have beat my ass. In school, we had to build like these model cars. I don't even remember where mine is. I don't even know if I still have it. But we built like these model cars, and this one kid, he was like, yeah, I'm too cool for school. He made his car, and it was like this yellow, like bumblebee looking car, like a Dodge Challenger or something. And he made it, and they gave it back to us after they had been graded. And he's like, I don't want this. I'm gonna throw it out. And my buddy, who was coming over to my house that night, he's like, hold on, I want it. And he's like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, I want that car. And he goes, okay. So he takes the car from him, and he comes over later that night, and it's a few of my friends that come over, and he had stopped at like CVS or something and bought a can of like Axe body spray, and he's like, I want to light this thing on fire. What? And he's like, I'm gonna light it on fire. And I was like, what do you mean you're gonna light it on fire? I'm not gonna light that on fire in my house. He goes, no. And it had snowed like the day before or something, so there was like a good probably like 7 inches of snow on the ground. So we went out onto my driveway, and my buddy had, unknown to me, brought like a whole pack of sparklers, and he just shoved them into the car and lit the sparklers on fire, and then that in turn caught the car on fire. But when that didn't do it for him, he just started spraying the car with Axe body spray, and it was just, I know for a fact it did not contribute to my lungs already being pretty shit. But I definitely had some damage done just inhaling melting plastic and melting paint. But it was fun, and that's all that mattered. And for the FBI agent or authorities that monitor this stream, it all happened in... That was the worst slurping noise I could possibly made. What do you guys say we do? Let's do one more reading, and I'll send you a lot somewhere. I can't stream too long tonight. I want to stream longer, but I made dinner earlier and for some reason just didn't agree with me. So, read something quick and merry way, and then maybe we'll do this again tomorrow. Maybe a little more good. All that. We do want to play some more Uma. Who knows? Maybe it'll be a little longer. What was the one I thought I wanted to? Let me look at the table of contents here, see if any of these stick out to me. We did the Ghost of Deer Island, Gray Man. Pogo is kind of lame. Flaming Bride of Banff Springs Hotel. Hold on, I really want to go to Banff. Let's read that one. Banff Springs Hotel one. Alright, gather round, hear ye, hear ye. The Flaming Bride of Banff Springs Hotel, Alberta, Canada. There are a few days in each of our lives, important days, where our emotions are at their highest, and our senses are at their most acute. It must have been such a day as this when a young bride, whose name has been lost to both time and lore, married the man that she loved. As evening approached, she prepared herself to celebrate the best day of her young life in the ballroom of the Banff Springs Hotel. She was the only daughter of a wealthy lumber baron. I thought that said wealthy LeBron. A wealthy lumber baron, and her wedding had been billed as a social event of the new century. No expense had been spared on this opulent party, which included lavish dinner reception at the Banff Springs Hotel. The bride wore a wide dress with many layers of crystalline, to fulfill the desire of looking as though she was gliding down a long, winding staircase. What a staircase it was, the wealthy LeBron. Grand and constructed of marble, it gave on a breathtaking vista of the Canadian Rockies. For this special occasion, the stairs were lined with candles, and hundreds of small flames illuminated the hall golden hue. At the foot of the stairs stood her groom. As the bride took her first step, their eyes locked, and the two held each other's gaze as she continued her descent. She paused for a moment on the first landing, briefly taking in the entirety of the room, perhaps to savor the moment, or to take a snapshot in her mind to save as a lifelong memory. As she continued walking down the stairs, the bride's gown billowed slightly, hardly noticeable, but just enough to brush against one of the candles. A short flash of illumination preceded the firestorm of her gown bursting into flame. She stumbled forward, trying to escape the inferno that had begun to engulf her. She lost her balance, and as if in a great pagan ritual, she began to roll down the stairs in a great wheel of flame, breaking her neck along the way. What had been a moment of such intense joy was in an instant turned into unimaginable anguish, as her groom threw his coat over his new bride's charred and broken body to help put out the fire. The flames were extinguished, the lifeless body lay smoldering at the foot of the stairs. Years later, the guests of the hotel began to report seeing a woman in a white gown make her way down to the first landing of the stairway before dissipating into a faint mist, caught by a light breeze. Others have called the front desk to report the sound of weeping coming from the bridal suite, only to be told that no one's staying there. From time to time, guests have asked who the young bride dancing by herself in the ballroom is, and have wondered if there's a wedding being held at the hotel. The most horrifying claims come from those who have had the misfortune to be staying at the hotel around the anniversary of the bride's tragic demise. Those guests claim that as the bride walks down the stairs, her gown appears to burst into flame, yet she continues her descent, her body bending and crackling as it becomes more misshapen and deformed until on the very last step, she releases a blood-curdling shriek before vanishing to a burst of frigid air. What a one to finish on. Damn. So I want to go to Alberta and Banff on vacation, and I really want to see National Park. Now that I know that there's ghosts, now I really want to go. I fucking love ghost stories. Ghost stories. I'm going to become good friends, probably with a box of Tums and possibly whatever sports, because my stomach has still been killing me, and I've been trying to ignore it this whole stream. It's getting the better. Talk about being like, yeah, man, that party was fire. That's fucked up. Oh man. or the moment. See who's on. Keep rating, dude. Cleo. Don't. What the heck? We'll go back to 2. Kid hurt. Sending him. Thank you guys for stopping in. Sorry it couldn't be a little longer, and sorry we've been on a Umamusume drought. I just wanted to not be battling stomach pains as I try to race horses. Maybe tomorrow we'll see how I'm feeling. But as for now, I'll send you, like I said, send you guys off to Duke. Have a good night. Maybe see you tomorrow. Maybe see you Sunday if I want to try this NASCAR thing. Have a good one. Great start to your weekend. Hope you're doing something. Adios. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye.
Hello? Hi, Meringue.